all. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to study. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Thank you for the opportunity to worship and now even to cook, to show how we can live life healthy, mind, body, and in our soul. So Jesus, we need you. I pray that you give us clear speech. I pray that everybody who's coming in will feel welcomed and that you would build us all up in our faith in you, Jesus, to trust nobody else, especially not even ourselves, only you. And so in your name we pray, and we thank you for hearing us. Amen. Amen. Well, what do we have on the menu for today? Well, today we're going to be making some good gospel granola. Why are we making granola? Well, granola is a good tasting cereal. That's one reason. Another reason why we're making it is because I enjoy it, but it's a healthy cereal. You know, one of the things a lot of people encounter when they're trying to go plant-based or when they're just trying to do better with their diet, especially if they're trying to get off of sugar, you're going to find that pretty much your whole selection of cereals is going to go from this down to that. Even if you're trying to go gluten-free, even though there are a lot of gluten-free options out there, they can be pretty expensive. So this is one of those things, as we're trying to do with all of our dishes that we're teaching and sharing during our Change Health. This is one of those dishes that covers a lot of bases. It's healthy for you, and we'll show you that ingredient by ingredient. It's affordable. You get a lot for your money when you're making it. And it's one of those things that actually tastes good. And you can adjust the taste of whatever your your palate might be, whether it's on more on the sweet side, even some savory, whatever. And so that's what we're going to do with our granola today. So let me do this. Let me make sure that you can see me. I think we're all good. Thumbs up. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Let me show you the ingredients before I even go in there. When you are using or making your oatmeal, obviously, is what you're going to be using when you're making your granola, because that's all that granola is. It's just uncooked oats. These oats are old-fashioned. You can use the other type, which is usually the instant, but these tend to work best because they're larger, they hold up better during the baking, and they're a little bit yummier to eat because the actual oat is a little bit larger. So we suggest you get old-fashioned, and whatever end on the spectrum, if you want to get the super healthy one, super expensive one, that's fine. These are good too. They're a good start because they're also a gluten-free source. Even though they're not certified gluten, oats by nature are very low on the gluten scale to 0. So if you're trying to go in a gluten-free direction with your cereals, this is where you want to start. I'm going to bring our camera down here just a little bit so that you can see everything that we're working with here. All right. And now we're going to go and introduce our other family, the seasonings and the spices. We're going to keep it simple with this granola, okay? Not a whole bunch of stuff, but you've got salt here, pink Himalayan salt, and then you've got ground cinnamon. So ground cinnamon, salt are going to be your primary seasonings in addition to the sugar. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. Now let's talk about the oils as we look here at the sugars. Over here with the oils, these are important because when it comes to baking, one of the things we're trying to teach everybody here is these are going to become your go-to oils when it comes to making things. They tend to be less processed. Remember, on a certain level, all oil is processed. So you're trying to minimize unless you're going to be pressing your very own. So when you're coming to your oils between coconut oil and olive oil, which direction do you want to go? Well, it all depends on what it is you're trying to accomplish when you're making your granola. If you're looking for a granola or a cereal that has more of a baked kind of texture, in other words, it crisps up a little bit better, one versus the other, I would suggest going the direction of the olive oil. Now, once you've gone through the olive oil, though, what you'll notice here is that when it comes to like on par, health for health, this is the direction that you want to go, coconut oil. So this is baking better if you're leaning more towards the health aspect. So if you're looking more for flavor, if you're looking more for the health benefits, this is important because it's an easy way to get in some good essential fatty acids, some good oil in your body. Now, I know you may not hear that a lot of times when people are talking about health and health food, but oil is vital, good oil. Why is that? Because just because there's bad oil doesn't mean that no oils are good. We're talking about bad oils like the processed oils, your vegetable oils, those oils that are made from genetically modified sources, things like that. Then the worst ones like animal oil. But in some ways, oil is so bad, the processed oils, some animal oils will actually turn out to be better health-wise. So we're not trying to go that direction at all. When it comes to oil like this, it's a saturated oil. As you can see, the coconut oil, it's not melting at room temperature. That's good. It's good for your body because that means when it does get warmed up, it's going to melt, as you're going to see. And also, this is feeding your brain. Remember, when you think about what does your brain run off? Your brain doesn't run off of carbs, doesn't run off of proteins. It runs off of fat. So a lot of people have cognitive disorders, mental disorders, stresses, depression, all of those things just because they are eating an inadequate source of oil and their brain is starving for it. And so when it comes to oil, you're always going to hear us go for the gold medal right here with coconut and with a close silver as olive oil. So for this dish, since it's Change Health, we're going to go with the coconut oil so you won't feel intimidated making it and won't be afraid about how it tastes. Now, let's get to our sweeteners. When it comes to the sweeteners, normally when we're sweetening, we use coconut sugar. But again, because we're trying to skew a little bit more healthy in this dish, we're going to use a substitute. And this is stevia. Now, it's basically extract from the stevia plant mixed with maltodextrin. It's better as far as processed sugars go. And this is why we suggest it too, because it's also a calorie-free sweetener because of the stevia plant. It's not in the same category as those Sweet and Lows or what's the other one, the Equals. That's not what it is. Even though it looks like that, it is of a different sort because it's based from the plant. Those sugars are chemically created. They are engineered and processed, and that's why they are not good. And you want to go the other direction when it comes to eating them. So for sweetening this granola, we're going to use stevia as our primary powder sweetener, because as you're going to see, you can put all kinds of stuff in granola, but we're going to keep it basic and simple today. And last but not least, today, instead of going the flaxseed direction, another big thing that we advocate because of its good fats, its good omegas in it, we're going to go with chia seeds. These are black chia seeds, and we're going to add these to our granola. It's going to give it a little bit of crunch, but again, you're getting the benefit of those good fats going inside of it too. So I think we've got everybody at the table. Let's go ahead and get this started. As you're going to see when you're dealing with coconut oil, it's solid because it gets solid at room temperature as a saturated fat. So we're going to melt our oil. Now, there are a couple of ways we could do it. The quickest way is obviously the microwave, but normally we just melt it in the oven while the oven's preheating. You're going to preheat your oven to 350. So you want to bring your oven up to 350 degrees, because when it comes to granola, it's low and slow. You're going to cook it on a low temperature and you're going to keep it slow for about 20 minutes, 10 minutes in between flipping it over and another 20 minutes, and you should be golden. No pun intended, right? So let's get our oil in. To get the oil out of here, what we're going to do is, because it's solid, we're going to go ahead and get it out of the container and we're just going to melt it. Now, depending on what kind of bottle you have, you can melt it in the bottle, but we do not suggest microwaving plastics because you do not want to release the plastics into your dish. So we're using a glass dish. You can use a teacup or a mug of some sort. Just don't use plastic if it comes in a plastic bottle. Now you're going to have about a half a cup of oil is what you're going to need. So this looks about close. So I'm going to go ahead and for time's sake, I'm going to drop this in the microwave. But again, like I said, normally we let that preheat. Okay, so now we're going to go from our oil. And when the oil is done, we're going to add our salt, our cinnamon, and our sugar. So basically what we're making is like all of our liquids, making a nice little sauce. And then we're going to put our oatmeal into the sauce, so to speak. I call it sauce, but that's all it really is. Melted sugar, right? Melted coconut oil, excuse me. Then we're going to add our sugar. All right, so I think we are about ready. So there we go. We got our meat. It's looking pretty good, Brother Bailey. Let's see if we got a half a cup of oil. Be dramatic. Start with the 1/4. It's 1/4. And then we're going to try another 1/4. Just shy. It's looking like an 1/8. So instead of trying to microwave the whole thing all together, I'm going to put some of this unmelted coconut oil. Show you another little trick so you don't have to reheat over again. Just put that back in there. And again, it's going to go to temperature. So because that's at a warm temperature, it's going to actually melt down for us. That's cool, kind of an experiment. You can't really see it there on camera, but it's melting down into our already warmed coconut oil. And we got ourselves another fourth. So that's 1/2 cup of coconut oil. Okay, 1/2 cup coconut oil. Now we're going to go ahead and add our seasonings because we're flavoring our oatmeal. We want to flavor it into the oil. Let me give this a little run on it because I don't want any of the solid coconut in there. I want to make sure it's all nice and even. So we're adding our seasoning into the oil because then that's just going to spread over the granola more evenly. So you could put it on the oats after, but I'd rather put it on now so you get a nice even coating. So every bite that you get, you taste all that goodness, that good gospel goodness in the granola. Now, let's go ahead and get our seasonings in. We're going to start with our cinnamon, and we're going to put in quite a bit of cinnamon. We're going to put in about 2 teaspoons. Cinnamon's good for you. It's a great de-stressing herb. Obviously, it has the aromatics. It just has the smell to it that is always, when you're eating cinnamon, and it's good for you. All right, so we got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon in there. Now we're going to add our salt. When it comes to salt, you can go a little light on it. So I'm going to go 3/4. 3/4. Normally I'll put like a teaspoon, but I'm going to go light. 3/4 teaspoon of our pink Himalayan salt. Now we're ready for the stevia. When it comes to the stevia, you want to put in about 1/3 cup of sweetener. What if you don't want to go with the stevia? You want to use maple syrup. You want to do honey. You can go those routes. Now, we're not trying to do the white sugar. Normally, people will use the brown sugar, but we're trying to go the other direction, right? We're trying to get sugars that are lower on the glycemic index. So when you eat it, you don't get that double hit between the sugar and the oats because they're carbs too. So we want to try and eat our carbs rather than just sweet our carbs, all right? So let's go ahead and get 1/3 cup of this in there. So 1/3 cup of stevia. And you see stevia is so powdery. I don't know if you can catch this on camera because I have a white apron, white stevia, but it's so powdery. Want to be careful, be mindful because it is poofing up. And so you don't want to be inhaling the stevia. Not that you're going to get inebriated or anything, but we don't want that all over our kitchen. All right. Oh, I need a whisk. You grab a whisk. Then you can use a spoon too. But we're trying to be chefy here, right? And so if you want to go ahead and break out the whisk, now is a good time. And that's how our stevia is going to look. It has, obviously, because of its whiteness, you can get another stevia, the actual stevia extract and the actual powder like this, but it's going to be green. So it's even less processed than this. This is normally what you're going to see in most big box stores. But if you want to go grab some at a health food store, that's the absolute best. Costs a little bit more. This even skews a little bit more, but you get the same 1-for-1 portion. So if you get a recipe, ask for a cup of sugar, white sugar, brown sugar, whatever, you can use the same amount. So it's 1-to-1. So you really get your money's worth in the end. All right. Oh, and there's something I forgot. Make sure you get some vanilla extract. You want to have a couple of teaspoons of vanilla extract, okay? Because that vanilla extract is going to kind of give it that little cake taste on the back of the tongue, and that tastes really good. So you could, again, you don't really need any of all of the bunch of stuff. All you need is oil, oatmeal, and some kind of sweetener when it comes to making granola. But we're not going to go too complicated, but we don't want to cut too many corners either. All right, so now we've got our oil in there, and we've got our stevia, and then we've got vanilla extract, cinnamon, and now we're going to add our last 2 ingredients here, the oats and the chia seeds. All right, so we're going to go with 4 cups of oats. You want to add 4 cups of oats or oatmeal. We're using old-fashioned oats. Best one that we recommend when it comes to making your granola. So we're going to go 1 cup, 2 cups, 3, and 4. Okay, So now we've got our 4 cups of oats in, and now our chia seeds. Brand new bag. We're going to go ahead and open this package. Chia seeds are an excellent, well, superfood, some people call them. All right, now I know this bag is super closed, but we made it. All right, so let's go ahead and get a 4th cup of chia seeds in our granola. Okay. All right, so 1/4 cup chia seeds. Some people use a spoon. I like to get my hands dirty, so I'm gonna go ahead and go all in. Give this a good mix because I want to make sure that all of the oats are wet. And for me, when I'm cooking, I can feel sometimes better than I can see. And so I'm going to go ahead and go all in and make sure that everything's nice and coated, because I know I got a good coat on there. 1, because I see it kind of sticking together, but 2, when I bring my hand up, I've got it sticking to my hand too. So I want to make sure that I got all of this evenly mixed. And sometimes it's hard to do that if you're just using a spoon. Again, we're trying to make good sweets to make good eats. A lot of people think that when they go vegan or when they're trying to be healthy, that means you just don't eat anything sweet. No, that means you manage your sweets and you try to get good ones in there. So for example, like when we went with the stevia, now, if you wanted to, you could add fruits to these, dried fruits, obviously not fresh fruits. But if you want to add fresh fruit, and the number 1 fresh fruit that people are probably going to add are raisins. And so you can add raisins in here if you want to put that in your granola. Some people add carob to theirs, carob chips, anything to make it a treat. Because what we will say is, if you know that you're going to be eating this as a breakfast food, you want to kind of watch your sweeteners because you don't want to get too much, even if it's fructose, good fructose from a fruit. Don't want to get too much there, sugar spikes in the morning. And if you're having it for a dessert, obviously you can go that route. And you just watch your portions when you eat it as a dessert. Put it on a parfait, put it on your ice cream. You can even add it as a topping to other cakes or things like that. Granola is just a real treat. And I got to be honest with you, it's probably my number 1 food. I think I like eating the most. It's between granola and beans and rice. I don't know. We'd have to do a survey. Ask Tara and the girls which one do they think is my number 1. All righty. I'm going to make sure I don't take any of my granola out with my hand. And now we're going to bake it. When we bake it, we bake on the cookie sheet. And you know what I'm about to put on the cookie sheet? What do we put on our cookie sheets when we bake? That's right. We go with parchment paper. Parchment paper is good. Now, you really don't need it as much when it comes to this dish, versus like when we were making the French fries and stuff like that, because there's not a lot of loose oil. So you don't mess up your cookie sheet. But again, it does keep it even. Make sure you don't have any burn, because what a lot of times happen when you're making granola, it'll burn on the edge. We don't want that. We want a nice even bake. So we got our parchment paper. And now we have our cookie sheet. So let's get our granola baking sheeted. So we're going to cover our baking pan up. We're edge to edge. Very good. Very good. All right. So now we're going to go ahead, and this should just spoon right on pretty easily. You'll see how it falls out here. If you've got big clumps or anything clumping up on you, you just want to make sure you go back in and get a hand on that and break up the clumps with your spoon or with your hand if you're mixing. Okay. So now when we're baking on the baking sheet, another thing that we've learned, we want to make sure that everything is even. Everything is even, because an even spread means an even bake. So you don't have some portions or some pieces that are burnt than others that are raw. So we're going to go ahead and try and make this nice and flat. It's not a science, don't stress it, but you don't want big mountains on one end and then flat on the other, because whatever's lean on the end, that's going to cook quicker. So it's going to burn. Then this stuff up here, it won't burn because it won't even get cooked. So you want to make it nice and even. All right. So we got it nice and even so we can breathe. All righty. Good job. And what we're going to do is in 10 minutes, we're going to bake this. Going to go back in. You're going to take a spatula like so. And with your spatula, let me grab another one, even better. With your spatula, you're just going to go in and we're just going to flip it over. Okay. And so we'll go back in at 10 minutes after it's baked, go in and you're just tossing it, flipping it over like this, not stirring, but just flipping everything over, especially the edges, right? Because they're going to cook first. Then once you've got everything flipped, just kind of spread it out nice and even. And then you're going to bake that for another 10 minutes. And within 20 minutes, you should be good. If it doesn't seem quite golden enough, remember when it cools, it is going to harden. So just hang tight and try it out with that 20 minutes. You know your oven and you know your desire if you want it really crunchy. If you want it cooked a little bit longer, put it in for like 5 minutes. Just keep an eye on it and then go for another 5. And it may be just right for you if you don't think it's quite crispy enough to what you like. Like I said, you can add raisins, you can add carob chips, you can even add, there was something, all kinds of nuts, almonds, pecans, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, you name it. You just add the portion you think is adequate. Normally, I'd start with like a half a cup of those. So if you're going to add nuts, do like a half a cup of a pecan, or half a cup of a walnut, half a cup of a nut, and just use your favorite nuts. Because again, you're getting that good fat, which is why we love the granola, because we're getting that good fat for our brain and our body. And it's not the bad fat, and it tastes good. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead, pop this in the oven. We're at 350, and we're gonna let this go for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, we'll see where we are halfway.